transitioning, I mean, this is kind of within the same vein because it was also something that was from Decentralized Me, but on to the actual pDAI stuff, like I was alluding to earlier. So we did have a poll out there once again for people within the community to vote on, where the Hat wallet that presumably is somehow tied to Richard Hart, of course, to have this specific poll was for pDAI to be collateralized by Pulse, the Pulse token, actually. So I think this was open for like a week or something like that. And obviously, the Hat wallet voting favorably on this would have been the over the moon, uber bullish confirmation that yes, this wallet, who seems to be a gigantic fan of PulseChain, is voting yes on, like, basically substantiating all the beliefs that everybody has always had about pDAI. Basically, not that we need that to happen for, I think it's pretty clear at this point, but some people, still don't believe. So whatever. That deadline did come and go without the Hat voting on it, and we did see pDAI specifically in that Atropa ecosystem kind of go down like 10%. It really wasn't that bad. This does not mean that it's not going to happen or anything. It was like, I don't know what the duration of that poll was. I think it might have only been a week or something like that. But Decentralized Me has talked about going back in and maybe just doing, it could be a number of things. It could be that the Hat wallet is not interested in doing this yet. It is still just January, and maybe giving that sentiment to the market he feels is a little bit too early. It could also be that maybe he needs to do a different type of poll. Like Decentralized Me said, what if I made a poll that was voting on collateralizing pDAI with all of the tokens, like Pulse, Hex, and PulseX all at once, or like a multiple choice type of thing with no time limit on the poll, where it doesn't run out, just let it go until the Hat wallet would vote on it, basically. So there's many things that can be done. I don't think the fact that the Hat wallet didn't vote affirmatively or in any way, it didn't vote no, it just didn't vote. I don't think it's any kind of negative view of pDAI at all. It's just interesting that, like, the bullish and bearish times, during Thanksgiving, if you remember, Ewok, everything going on with pDAI was all the rage. Everybody was obsessed with it. I was buying, PRC20 tokens left and right, copies before they nuked 50% because of the Interpol bullshit. There was just all this uber bullishness around the pDAI narrative during Thanksgiving. I mean, there was so much going on. And, then the bearish times come in, the other FUD articles come in, all these things, that narrative fades away and people aren't thinking about it anymore. And right now, even though things are bullish a little bit again, we're not hearing people talk about, pDAI and the potential pegging and the hyperloop of money coming in the ecosystem and PRC20 copies reaching parity and all these crazy things that people have speculated upon. We're not even really hearing about it much right now. So I'm interested in your thoughts. I know this stuff's a little complicated with like the voting on the poll and stuff like that, but what do you make of just the fact that we didn't get a vote from that big wallet on this? And whether, how it makes you feel as far as like the potential of pDAI and where we're at here with pDAI?
Good question. This one confuses me a little bit because, just because there wasn't a vote doesn't mean that person's not in favor or not in favor fully of that idea. I was more of the understanding that, when you look at DAI and how it's backed, it's backed by multiple things, right? It's backed by Bitcoin, Ethereum. I think there's some USDC, USDT. There's multiple things in there that back DAI. And that's always why it's been a little bit more decentralized. That way there wasn't any one point of failure. Well, I kind of think if we're going to do anything like that with pDAI, I think you need to have a similar backing. I think you need to have multiple things, multiple coins that back it. I think, PulseX, incentive, and it's always a dollar amount anyway. Like, you're not saying, well, what if it's very volatile? It wouldn't make any sense to use it as a backing. Well, it's still, again, it's for one DAI or whatever, you would take a third of this or a third of that and a third. So it's the dollar value. It's not the actual, the volatility of it shouldn't matter. Um, so that was my take on why there wasn't a vote. I mean, I've always thought to have multiple assets backing something like that. That way, there's not one single point of failure.
Right.
If there ever was something wrong or anything that happened, it wouldn't ruin that as well. So, you want to eliminate points of failure, and by having multiple tokens backing something, I mean, I really think that's the way to do it. So that was my thoughts on it. I don't know about calling him out like that.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe get his attention another way. I don't know. I mean, it's just maybe that was another thing that why there wasn't a vote. I don't know. There's still some secrecy to it, and I don't think that anybody really wants to be tied to it quite yet.
Right.
That's why nothing has been said, positive or negative. Mind you, I mean, there has been no comments from him at all.
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm not sure we want to start tagging him in this stuff yet. But either way, that was my thought. Why there wasn't a vote is because there's more to it than just Pulse being the backer.
I think that is a good point. I do think I alluded to this earlier. I think also maybe the timing of it too, because whether that doesn't mean like, even if it was voted on yes, that doesn't mean it's going to instantly peg. Clearly, that's not what's going to happen. But
Right.
if you do vote positively on it, that's basically confirmation that this is the plan, this is what's happening, and you're letting everybody that knows about it know this right now in January 2025, when there's still plenty of time. I mean, I know people don't understand that sometimes. They're like, it's 2025 now. Like, what are we doing? We got to be pumping by now and everything. But there is so much that can happen in the rest of the quarters of this year, like literally in that 3-4 month time frame. I mean, especially at the end of the year, like we could be we talked about this last week. I mean, we could be blowing up going into 2026 still. If not us, somebody else could be. I mean, there are altcoins that are still going to be super bullish even going into 2026. So there is a lot of time and so many things are going to happen this year. I could understand that entity not wanting to signal that to the market yet, quite frankly. I still think it's the plan. I still think it's going to happen. It's just going to be at the speed that it's going to need to be to happen. And we'll slowly see things like that rolled out this year. Not only that, but also just like, if there are other upgrades to PulseX or other features added and all these other pools that we're speculating on PulseX having. I just think we're going to see exponential growth this year regardless,
Well, and remember the whole rising tide lifts all ships kind of thing, right? You don't want people to have to inject a bunch of money to make the peg happen. Like that's not really the goal. And the one thing is that we know Richard's always been pretty good on his timing of things, except calling a release date. But other than that, for the most part, he's been pretty spot on with timing of things and releasing things. So yeah, I mean, potential that there's many reasons why this didn't get voted on.
Yeah, I think so too. I don't think there's any reason to be upset. And really, there wasn't anywhere near the sell-off that people thought they were going to be. I saw Too Spooky on Twitter saying, like, you guys are idiots. This is never, whatever he said. This is never going to happen. You're going to see pDAI nuke after this. I mean, he's playing a role. That's just kind of what he does, I think. I think this is 100% going to happen eventually, and we'll just have to see the way it comes together, which none of us know at this point. So, yeah. We'll keep monitoring on it. But, it's not even something that you have to depend on. I mean, I think we're going to, have plenty bullish things to happen for this ecosystem in this bull market, but that would just make it all the more bullish, I believe. So, yeah.